Hello, hello, folks. Happy Friday. We made it through another week of semi-quarantine. I don't even know what we call this anymore. But we are here. We have survived, and we have a cocktail. Go Longhorns. Whoop, whoop. Awesome. And with me, I have Stephanie today. And Stephanie Dalfonzo, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Dalfonzo. But we met at an event a long time ago, and I was just taken aback because Stephanie has this incredible, I know I sound like a froofy weird person when I say this, because I would have thought the same thing if someone else had said this to me, but she's got this cool energy about her, and it's just this real positivity. And I was doing a book signing, and it was one of those like amazing moments as a speaker where I had a really long line of people waiting to get a book, which always feels so good. And Stephanie jumped right in and just started helping me. And it was just so fun to talk to. And we had such a nice conversation that I couldn't wait to share her with you. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and what's going on with you today. Where are you?
I am in Connecticut, going into week 12 of total isolation. You asked me before if I was married, if I had kids, and yes, I'm married for 35 years now. My husband, Monday, will celebrate his 17th anniversary as a successful transplant recipient. So, first of all, that is a medical miracle. Then in 2018, he got an incredibly rare fatal cancer diagnosis. And yet I found some holistic and natural ways to help him have a cancer miracle. And he is completely cancer free. So if I'm not going to let a liver transplant take him out, I'm not going to let a cancer diagnosis take him out, I am sure as hell not letting COVID-19 take him out.
Screw you, COVID.
Yes. Yeah. So, I feel very blessed that we're in a position where I can have somebody to, go do our grocery shopping and stuff. But 12 weeks of just the two of us.
Just the two of you. Is his breathing starting to annoy you?
No, it's the chewing. You hear somebody.
We had that conversation last night at the dinner table.
There you go.
If you are just joining us, please chat in where you are joining from and any questions that you have for Stephanie. Why don't you tell us kind of a little bit about your background, who you are, and what you specialize in?
Okay, so I specialize in something pretty cool. I'm an integrative hypnotist. What is an integrative hypnotist? I have been training for over 20 years. And so I integrate hypnosis with all these other modalities. And so I've got my own little secret sauce. I was telling you before we started live that when I took my first hypnosis training in 2004, my teacher said, most hypnotists read scripts and they have them on paper. So they put them in the page protectors so you don't hear it when they're turning the pages. And she goes, no, I'm not going to teach you that way. I'm going to teach you how to do it right. Each client has their own script and it's up to you to bring it out. And so that's why I've had such a high success rate because, I never read the same quit smoking script for everybody because, then some people, a very few people who are very suggestible will get it, but most people won't. So that's why I'm an integrative hypnotist. I'm also a coach, an author of Goodbye Anxiety, Hello Freedom, with 35 different techniques to help calm stress and anxiety. And Anne, when I published this book 2 years ago, I had no idea how much the world would need it today.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that crazy? Yeah. I mean, 2 years ago, we felt like we were having stress and anxiety. And I remember at the end of 2019, my mom, my friends, people were like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to have this year over with. I have been so stressed and so tired and I'm so ready for a break. And then we got a really weird break. And now everybody's like, 2019, come back.
Right. It's like we were all saying, we're so happy to be in 2020. We're so happy to have 2019 over. And the universe said, really?
But what do you think that is? There's something called post-traumatic growth. And it's we grow as a result of the shit shows that we experience in our lives. And I'm wondering, what do you think the lesson is in that? Because it's pretty profound.
I think, first of all, we're not going to get to that lesson for a while. This isn't going to be over like next week. It's, this is going to be a long haul, and, a long haul to get past this absolute crisis. And that's, we'd call it what it is. It's a crisis with the COVID-19, but the emotional and mental health effects are going to last for decades. Because, the whole reason that I specialize in anxiety and wrote the book is because of personal experience. I found myself in my kitchen smashing my children's Cheetos, their precious junk food, because
better than your children.
Yeah, this is true. But because I had insomnia, and the slightest thing would set me off. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you have insomnia because of the anxiety. And I was like, what? I didn't know it wasn't normal to walk around with my shoulders as earrings, or, to constantly worry the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
That was all I knew. So a lot of people who never experienced anxiety are now experiencing anxiety beyond belief. From mid-February to mid-March, prescription medications for anti-anxiety and depressions, 34.1% in 1 month. Yeah.
Wow.
The census, where is it? The census we just had,
showed
34% of adults saying that they have signs of clinical anxiety or depression. So
no shit, Sherlock. It's kind of like if you don't have some level of imbalance right now in the way you're handling things, that would be incredible, because I think everybody's experiencing it differently in different phases and in different ways. I'm curious, how do you define anxiety? Because this is the last week of Mental Health Month, and my story. I've talked about my son Evan and my health scare and all that good stuff, and it's been kind of a journey for me to learn how to sit with the anxiety and to not be able to necessarily fix it. But I think there's so many different definitions. Some people say, well, I feel anxious, or I have a full-blown anxiety disorder. Like, how do you differentiate it, and how do you define what anxiety is before we start figuring out how to manage it?
So I don't go with any kind of, label of a diagnosis. I definitely don't diagnose, prescribe, or treat anything. But anxiety is when you're not in the present moment. Anxiety is almost always Lao Tzu. So it is a philosopher from centuries ago, long ago, said that depression is worrying about the past. Anxiety is worrying about the future, and we have to keep coming back into the present moment. So my whole premise with the book is, here's 35 different techniques, not because you have to learn all 35. I specifically put them in alphabetical order. So the book is just under 100 pages. You don't even have to read the whole thing. I did that intentionally, because if you're already stressed and anxious and I hand you a 400-page book, there's no way you're going to read it, right? But so, let me teach you a couple of different techniques and then action them. I used to say, pre-COVID, short moments of peace and calm many times a day. Now it's short moments of peace and calm many times an hour. And if you don't have those healthy habits in place yet, get out your phone, set a reminder every 10 minutes to stop and do one of the techniques, because we're interrupting the stress pattern, the stress syndrome, right? So when we do that, it gives our chance to reset. If you think about it in terms of our heart, between each heartbeat, our heart rests. So when we rest from that stress response, then it gives us a chance to just calm things down.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest lessons for me, it's funny because right before we got on this discussion, I was looking at tattoo pictures, and my teammate Amy is probably watching this laughing her ass off, because we talked about, like, when my new book came out, it's this, the title is Mind Over Moment, Harness the Power of Resilience. And I was like, I want to get this reminder. I want to have something that's like a reminder. So if you have ideas out there, if you're listening or watching and you have ideas for cute little tattoos, let me know. Because I was going to do like mind, and then the line, and then moment. And then, alrighty guys, I don't know what happened or why our video stopped, but hopefully you can see us. Amy, let me know, text me on this magic little device in my hand and let me know if you can see me again, and see Stephanie again, because we're having a great conversation, but I want to make sure everybody else is getting to experience it. So let's just make sure this is working. And there could be like a Facebook funky thing. Okay, we're back.
Yay.
All right. So you were asking the question that I really loved. Oh, Lodi, thank you so much. I'm glad you can see us. And please chat in questions or comments or anything you want to talk about. We're just kind of shooting the shit over here. So the question was, what is right now? And I told you this before we had we went live, but so, I have this great client, and I'm not supposed to tell you their name, so we'll just call him Dell. But they're wonderful. And I was doing a nighttime webinar for Asia, for some of their employees in Asia. And I was scheduled to do one at 10 a.m. the next morning. And literally like an hour before I went on the night before, we found out that Riley was having her graduation parade the next day. And so I'm on the virtual session going, oh my gosh, what kind of mom am I? Like, I can't even go to my daughter's graduation parade, like how horrible do I feel? And while I'm on the call, I'm recording it. And one of the leaders of the program said, Anna, can you stop recording the video? And I'm like, oh God, what did I do? I'm going to get in trouble. Because it's still like a kid. You go back to like, what did I do?
Yep.
And he goes, well, we just don't want you to cry while you're speaking on a recording. And I'm like, why would I cry? Because we're going to reschedule 151 people in the class that were signed up for you tomorrow so that you can go to your daughter's graduation, because we don't want to be the reason you missed that. And I of course started crying. Yeah. Like, see, I told you, we didn't want you to cry on camera. But it's like, I think sometimes we let these things that are going right now go by so fast because we're waiting for some amazing right thing at the end of a rainbow, instead of really just celebrating the right now.
Well, I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
No, get happy now. And part of what's right now is also because it's the gratitude component. And Sean Acor, who I love, the happiness researcher, when you experience gratitude, not when you just think it up here in your mind, but when you feel gratitude in your body, you stimulate your body to produce dopamine and serotonin, which are the happy hormones that you find synthetically manufactured in certain prescription medications. So
I'm on them.
Okay. So if you can start getting your body to produce more of that, right? The more we can produce that, I know for me in my own life, this has been a journey. And, back when I was struggling, I'm not going to tell you I don't ever experience anxiety. Like, I'd be lying. I live in COVID-19 world. Okay. I experience anxious moments, but I know what to do about them. So when I start to fall out of emotional balance, I can bring myself back. And that's what I want to share. If I can share a couple of techniques today. It's simple things like that. Oh, what's right now? There's gratitude, right? You can start in the morning. Interesting little factoid. The first couple of minutes that you wake up in the morning and the last couple of minutes at night before you fall asleep are states identical to hypnosis. It's called the hypnagogic state. And so you can program in what you want the day to be like. So think about it. When you wake up in the morning and it's like, oh shit, another day of this incredible shit show we're in, right? Where's the rest of your day going to go? When instead you wake up, and this is what I do in my journal, I write thank you, 1 exclamation point, thank you, 2 exclamation points, thank you, 3 exclamation points, and then at least 3 things that I'm grateful for. So I'm priming the pump for the day. Yeah. Again, this whole journey with, researching anxiety for over 20 years started with insomnia. The medication worked, it stopped working, then it got even worse. So I started finding ways. Oh, well, if I go to bed, oh my gosh, what if I took the medication? What if it doesn't work? What if I didn't sleep well. When I started taking advantage of those few minutes right before I drifted off to, ooh, I'm going to sleep peacefully and restfully. And if I wake up, I'm just going to breathe my way back to sleep. And it worked.
My mom, she was a court reporter for 30 years. She's a flight attendant now, for an airline, Southwest. And she, it was funny because she had such severe insomnia. She started taking Ambien. And one morning her boss called and she was like, so did you really quit? And my mom was like, what are you talking about? She called in the middle of the night on Ambien. She was like, I'm going to quit. She went to Wendy's and got dinner. Like, she didn't even know any of these things happen. And it's so scary to me. But I'm so excited because my new book, Mind Over Moment, comes out October 6th. And it's like this step-by-step guide. It's like my field journal of everything that I have learned about how to identify the thoughts and emotions that are keeping you stuck, and using science-backed techniques to kind of bring you back into the present moment. Because you're right, when you are thinking about the past, it's easy to ruminate and have guilt and shame and sadness. And when you're worried about the future, that creates anxiety and turmoil. And so it's been a powerful lesson for me to learn to come back now. That being said, we're still in Mental Health Month, and I think it's important to let folks know. So antidepressants have gone up 400% since 1987. I mean, it's like astounding. However, my mom had a mood disorder. I have depression. My son has like some significant issues coupled with autism. So there are conditions when you absolutely need a combination of therapy and possibly medication based on a conversation with a trained psychiatrist and a professional. So I don't want anybody to think we're going, oh, if you can just breathe, you're gonna be okay. Because there's like legit, illness is that.
Yeah. And I would have people who would come and they'd be so embarrassed to tell me that they were taking medication. And I always said, first of all, no judgment here. I don't talk anything about medication. That's outside my wheelhouse. But secondly, if you break your leg and you need crutches, use the damn crutches.
Right.
So it's, right. I don't ever look at anything as an either or. As I told you before we started, I think I said it on here about my husband's transplant and then his cancer miracle. Like, it truly was a cancer miracle. He had a, with treatment, 25% chance of survival at 1 year, 0 at 2. And I found holistic ways to get him cancer free. And so it's not one or the other. Western medicine saved his life with a life-saving liver transplant 17 years ago. He would not be here without that. So I never look at things as an alternative and it's got to be either or. It's complementary.
Yeah.
And so if you're on medication, if you feel there's a stigma, like, let's just rip that off and take that off and say, oh, okay. If you have diabetes, you take medication. So I'm definitely not saying don't take medication or, let's shame those who are on. I just think that, for a lot of people, in addition to that,
you still have to do the work.
Right. Oh boy, do you.
Work, right? Like, it's like, I'd love to say that there's this happy pill that doesn't make you have to work anymore, but the crutch kind of has, I think it's a good analogy, because it's just that additional tool. But for those of you who are listening, I'm curious to know, have any of you ever been hypnotized? And if you were hypnotized, what were you hypnotized for? Because my mom was hypnotized and she quit smoking like immediately with one session. I told you that. It was bizarre and crazy. And she didn't even want to quit. And so that was kind of my first introduction to hypnosis. And I must have been 9 years old. Like, I was really young. It wasn't something that I remember vividly, but it kind of has this memory. But then other than that, like, a couple of times I've gone in to have kind of a relaxed state. Tell us what it is. And then, is there any way you can do it virtually?
So I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Okay.
Everyone has been in hypnosis at some point in their life.
Really?
Everyone. Yep. It's simply a focused state of awareness. So, Anne, How many times have you driven somewhere and you got there and you're like, I don't remember the drive?
A lot.
All right. When my daughter, who is now grown and flown, when she was 16 years old, she came home from driver's ed going, Mom, we talked about highway hypnosis tonight. Like, it's a thing. It's called highway hypnosis. And it doesn't mean that you're out of your mind, or that it just means that your subconscious mind was keeping you safe and driving you while your conscious mind was thinking about whatever. If you think about our mind in terms of like an iceberg, when you see like a diagram of an iceberg, you see about 7 to 10% above the water. 90% is what's below the surface.
Right.
That's the subconscious mind. And that's where the power of the subconscious mind is. When you bypass the critical factor, and in the days when we used to be able to go to the movies theaters, right? We'd be in the movie theater.
A long time ago, back in those days.
Yeah, back in those days. It seems like it's been years, doesn't it?
It does.
But back in the day, we'd be sitting there with a big old tub of popcorn in our lap, and they want you to cry and you start to tear up. Or if they wanted you to jump and you found yourself jumping,
right.
It's because in that moment, you were so in the moment in that story that your conscious awareness wasn't there.
So we're hypnotized when we're like in a movie and have that reaction?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. It's a focused state of awareness. And so, a lot of times what you see on TV and in the movies about hypnosis, it's for entertainment, right?
So you don't like squawk like a chicken and hop on one foot and then all of a sudden, and you're like, what happened?
Yeah, no. I mean, the stage hypnotists, I have so much respect for them. I was trained as a stage hypnotist, but I decided that that's not what I wanted to do because, what I want to do is to help people get free. Like, I want to help you. And excuse me, 1 second. I want to read something from this amazing woman. Dr. Edith Eva Eger wrote The Choice.
Okay.
Embrace the Possible. This woman who's an Auschwitz survivor, who, when she and her mother and sister went into Auschwitz, they asked if her mother was her sister, and she said no. And they put her in the line to go to the gas chamber. So this woman's story is incredible. She is amazing. Wow. My best birthday gift this year is going to be her next book, which comes out on my birthday. So I heard Oprah read this and I was like, oh my gosh, this is directly from my heart. So again, these are not my words, but they are. I would love to help you experience freedom from the past, freedom from failures and fears, freedom from anger and mistakes, freedom from regret and unresolved grief, and the freedom to enjoy the full, rich feast of life. We cannot choose to have a life free of hurt, but we can choose to be free, to escape the past no matter what befalls us, and to embrace the possible. I invite you to make the choice to be free.
I love that. That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so the stage hypnotist, I could have gone and made a lot of money doing that, but that's my mission, is what I just read you. So, bless the stage hypnotists, because they're the ones who kept the practice going.
Okay.
But so, all right. So you want to experience hypnosis?
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. And I'm nervous because, you think about the stage ones, and I've watched people be on stage before saying some really random stuff.
And you know why that is?
Why?
Because you're going through a series of tests at the beginning, and they're looking for who is the most suggestible in the audience. That's who gets brought up on stage. They wouldn't bring someone like you or me.
How do they tell who's suggestible?
Oh, there's ways. And I don't want to give away their secrets, but there's ways.
Okay. So
right.
how do we get suggestible right now?
Okay. So first of all, are you nervous with me?
No.
Okay. So then there's nothing to be nervous about, right? So let's just play. And we'll just do this brief little thing, and you'll get to experience, not just have me tell you at your conscious level, like you'll get to experience how powerful your mind is. Does that sound okay?
It sounds okay. All right. It sounds great.
Great. So if everybody, as long as I can't imagine somebody be driving while they're doing this, but yes, unless you're driving, please close your eyes. And if you're not comfortable with closing them all the way, you can just let them come to a soft gaze. But I want you to like let go of the visual distractions and bring your awareness inside. And so close your eyes, Anne,
All right.
and everybody else. And let's just play with your imagination. And imagine that you and I are sitting across the table from each other. We don't have to worry about social distancing. It's just in the privacy of our own minds. Maybe we're sitting across having a cocktail or a cup of tea. And imagine that I whip out a lemon. Only it's not just any old lemon. It's like a Costco lemon. And so whether you see a picture in your mind's eye or you can simply imagine it, either way is fine. It doesn't matter. So imagine that thick, dimply skin, the yellow skin, and the little two pointy ends of it. And then imagine that I start rolling it around on a cutting board to try and start loosening up the juices, and maybe you can get a little scent of that lemony goodness. And then imagine I take a very sharp knife and I slice it in half, and the juice starts spraying. Maybe you'll feel some of that juice spraying onto your skin, and wow, now you can really smell that lemony goodness. And then imagine that you pick up one of those halves and you put it up under your nose, and wow, doesn't that smell amazing? And now imagine that you pick up that half and you open up your mouth and you take a big, juicy bite of it. And open your eyes and let that go. What just happened?
Literally salivated. Like I was going like.
I can't wait till you see the replay and you see your face. And chances are anybody else, and if you did, type in the chat box, most people have that experience. And so we're not in the same room. We're not even in the same state, right? I don't have a lemon. I do have a tennis ball, but it was all in the power of your imagination. And the imagination is the language of the subconscious mind. So when we think about, there have been so many studies. Dr. Joe Dispenza is really he is research central on the power of our mind. There was a study where they had people pulling on a spring with this finger. And then they had the control group who was just imagining. They weren't physically doing it. They were just, somebody said their taste buds went crazy. So the other control group is just imagining doing the same thing. At the end of the study, both groups showed the same amount of increase in muscle in that finger.
Yeah, I read the studies too. And Roseanne said she was cutting lemons. Started. This is your fault, Roseanne.
That's funny.
They've done so many studies like that where simply visualizing things in your mind actually creates the same muscle memory as actually physically doing them. And, and I talk about the mindset all the time with like your beliefs literally drive your behavior, and we tell ourselves stories about the things that happen to us and we interpret them. How do you combine this idea of being really immersed in your brain and your mind and using that as a tool to help you free yourself from some of the anxiety and the shackles of all the stuff that we're doing?
First part is always awareness. Like the first step to any change is the awareness, and to start recognizing, ooh, here I go down this same route again, right? Because the neuroscientists say that neurons that wire together fire together. So we have these habits, like this happens, it fires off these neurons. I do the same thing over and over and over again. I've heard that that's the definition of insanity, right?
Right.
So it's becoming aware, ooh, I'm going into this pattern again, and then switching to a new pattern. So instead of, we do the dress rehearsal of, oh my gosh, I have a 2:00 meeting with the boss this afternoon. Oh my God, am I going to get fired? Oh my gosh. Oh, well, what's going to happen? If I get fired, I'm going to lose my house. Right? We go into all of this imagining, and then by the time 2:00 comes around, we're like this, instead of doing a mental dress rehearsal of, okay, I've been doing a really good job, and I'm going to show up in my confidence. I'm going to show up feeling confident and relaxed, in control. And so when we instead play that out, there's a much greater chance that it's going to be a much better meeting, right? But most of us don't go that route. Most of us are going, oh my gosh, worst case scenario. Now, we can't, in our imagination, change other people. Darn it. But we can affect our own behavior so that, all right, we start recognizing, oh, here I go again. Now, let me go to this other one instead. Michael Phelps, how many gold medals did that young man win? He wasn't ever, you'd see him with the earbuds in before every one of his meets, right? He was doing the visualization, and he didn't just, see himself hop into the pool and then he's on the gold stage. He went through the whole thing, every kick, every stroke, every turn on the wall. And then he went all the way through. Did he ever imagine himself on a podium? No, he never saw himself on the silver podium or on the bronze podium. He always went to seeing himself on the gold podium. Now, he also put in the physical practice. He put in what else was needed. You can't just, airy-fairy in your mind. Did you ever read or see The Secret?
Yeah. I was going to ask that because, what you think about, you bring about, and the law of attraction. And to some degree, there are so many skeptics, but then there are so many of the folks that I admire and respect that actually were part of the research. And so it's this difficult disconnect between how much of that is really in your control and how much of that is the power of positive thinking versus like what you're actually attracting and
so let me share a true story about this.
Okay.
When the movie came out, I will always remember this woman. I could run into her on the street. I wouldn't know who she is. I don't remember her name, but this has stuck with me. This has to be over 10 years ago, because I think it came out around 2008 maybe. This woman came to me on a Monday night, and she came in. I forget even what she was coming for, but she came in and she was distraught. She was absolutely distraught because she knew, because of the law of attraction, that she had the winning lottery ticket from Saturday night, and Monday morning she was going to go in and tell her no good, miserable boss off, and she was going to quit, and her life was going to be great. So, The Secret, if you saw the movie, imagine that abundance is coming to you, and then they go to the mailbox and all these checks are flying out of the mailbox. It doesn't work that way. Yes, you can do the mental dress rehearsal, but you have to do the practice too.
Right.
The oldest person I've worked with so far was 82 years old. I am so inspired by that because, I have a sign on my office door that says, you're never too old to be who you might have been. It's never too late to be who you might have been. So here's this 86-year-old Nana who comes to work with me, and we do the healing work. I mean, that's what I do. I do healing work, right? From her childhood. Is almost always from early childhood. She grew up, I think, during World War I in Germany. And so, lots of trauma and anxiety. So we did the healing work. It helped her. It healed it for her, but she also continued to action techniques from my book. She continued to do them because it's not like, we talked about the magic wand. There's not a magic wand, right? So if you do the mental dress rehearsal, you have to also put in the practical as well, right? You don't go to the gym one time and, ooh, I'm buff, or take one piano lesson and play like Lady Gaga.
So let's take the idea of the lemon, because when you were explaining it, I really did experience the salivation and I felt like I was right there. Yeah. So how do you translate that into the meeting with your boss? Because I can just see myself, if I'm going into the meeting with my boss and I'm really worried about being fired or let go or, whatever the negative thought that I have about, or prediction about how it goes, it's not realistic for your brain to go from that to, I'm going to go in and get a promotion and she's going to tell me I'm the next CEO and she's going to make sure that I'm running the entire thing. Like, how do you go from this idea of being so present you can taste a lemon to taking some of the discomfort away and giving me the confidence I need to deal with whatever's in front of me.
So first of all, you have to be realistic, right? You know, no, you're probably not going to get a promotion and named new CEO. Like, so, you know, be realistic, but also it's muscle memory. You know, you can't just do these things one time and expect them to work. I told you before we started videoing, I had a 70-year-old client a couple of weeks ago who's been in major panic mode for 2 months since March. And I saw her just on the couch, so peaceful and so relaxed. And I said, okay, so the rest of today and, you know, tonight, keep actioning these, keep doing these again and again and again. Again, short moments, many times an hour. And then we'll have another session tomorrow. And she called me the next morning. She goes, it didn't work. I wasn't calm last night. And I was like, did you do the techniques? No.
Of course not, Stephanie.
I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not that good.
Yeah.
You know, you have to do the work too. But again, it's simple ways.
So
Something like this. All right.
What is that?
It's tennis ball.
I know what that is, but I mean, like, what is it?
So you probably don't have a tennis ball. You can take a water bottle if you have it, and you can do that. Or you can simply take your hands,
All right.
put them in front of your hand, and then swing one out to the side and back, out to the side and back. And viewers, I hope you're doing this with us too, because
if not, we look like friggin' idiots.
I don't care. Listen, you know what? My son all during high school called me the woo-woo crackpot. I don't care. I don't care. I know it works. And
right.
So I'll tell you why this works. We're crossing the midline of the body, right? More importantly, we're crossing the midline of the brain. And so we're stimulating both the left and the right sides of the brain, which in turn stimulates the parasympathetic or rest, digest, and relax nervous system.
So just by doing this, we get out of the fight or flight?
It can start calming you down. Now, the key to all of this, Anne, is that you've got to start doing these like on a regular basis, right? Doing these again and again and again, because that helps bring that threshold down. But when you're up at a 9 or a 10 and you're freaking the hell out, saying do this is not going to help,
Okay.
right? When you're past that point, but when you can start taking the edge off here, and then take the edge off here again. Right now, we are in foot pressed down on the sympathetic nervous system all the way down, and we're not letting up. It's just, right? So we have to start actioning ways to interrupt it. I think I mentioned earlier, in between our heartbeats, it takes a rest. Right. So when we are interrupting that stress, and this comes out of my own personal experience. You know, I didn't just like, oh, let me research. You know, it's because I was like this so much of the time. And my kids came home from college at one point. They was like, did you start smoking weed?
If you're B from last week, the answer is a lot of it.
Yeah, well, no, that wasn't me, but it was because I had chilled out so much. And one of the many modalities I've trained in is I'm a certified yoga teacher. Never had any intent of teaching in a studio, but it deepened my practice. And it's, you know, said the integrative part of the hypnotist is bringing all these things together. So in our physical, do you practice, Anne?
I do yoga. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, I do yoga with a video. Like on YouTube. So
great. Yeah. You practice. Yeah. Listen, anybody who's listening, if you breathe, you're doing yoga. Okay. So the physical practice of yoga is just one of the 8 limbs of yoga. But in our physical practice, we're constantly falling out of balance and coming back, falling out of balance and coming back. We can do that emotionally. So it's a question of wobbling out of balance and coming back. And it's so much easier to come back from this instead of when you're flat down on the floor.
You know, it's so funny you say that, because when we took Evan to Idaho, Jay, you know, we came back and I had to fly to Europe to go speak in Slovakia and Romania. I mean, it was just crazy time. And Jay was, you know, for the first time able to do projects around the house. Jay's my husband, which is good, because if there was a random man in my garage named Che, we would have an issue if that was the man I was married to. But he fell off a ladder while doing a project, and he broke his ribs, his hip, and his arm. And I was supposed to do a keynote, which I ended up having to do. I did the keynote the next morning when he had his surgery. But I was able to like find someone else to take care of the breakout session so I could go be at the hospital with him. And while I'm like at the conference giving the keynote, a doctor comes up and she's like, hey, I just wanted you to know, like, there's scientific evidence that when you have an emotional trauma that takes you out of balance, you're physically more likely to be out of balance. And so when you have a difficult event in your life, you're much more likely to have a fall than you are when you're fine. And I thought, talk about like power. That is insane that it like literally translates into your physical balance when you're emotionally dysregulated.
Sorry, I'm looking to see. It's not within reach. Bessel, I think his last name is Vanderkolk. He's an MD, wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score. And it's about how trauma is stored in our body. And that's something I specialize in. I have, and you can look on my website, and I know there's at least one testimonial that says my PTSD is gone, because we have these traumas that get lodged in our subconscious mind. Now, every 7 years, every cell in the body has replicated. They're at different rates, but so every 7 years, it's like there's a whole new physical body, right? So there is not a cell in your body today that was in your body at 5 years old, and yet the cellular memory transfers. And so I have this amazing ability to be able to very easily help guide you to find where that started. And I sent you the She Conquers Fear page, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, right. So you guys, you need to look at this because it's truly the power of hypnosis and how powerful your mind is. So that amazing young woman, she came to me at 19 for her words, crippling fear of flying. And her mother came to the office with her and she goes, oh, we know exactly when it started. It was, blah, 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 blah. And I said, maybe not. And it wasn't. We consciously think we know where things start, and it's usually almost never that. So I helped her get to where the root cause was, do the healing work. She continued to do the techniques. I get up and see on Facebook one morning this picture that you saw on the page of her skydiving out of an airplane. Then there's another picture of her co-piloting a small plane. She was a business major who then took a little trajectory with her life. She went on to have the 5-Foot Traveler as her business. She's gone to all 7 continents, over 140 countries. When COVID really hit in March, she was stranded. She had to be quarantined in Norway for 14 days. Wow. Then, the hassles, the challenges of trying to get flights, and they were getting canceled and blah, 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 blah. Then she gets back to the States. She has to quarantine for another 14 days here. Like all of this chaos. And I checked in with her and I said, how are you doing? And she said, I'm doing okay because I'm still using the techniques that you taught me. So it's always about, again, I talk about it's not Eastern or Western medicine. It's a complement of that, right? It's not do the healing work and it's one and done. It's not just do the techniques. It's let's pull it all together.
So give us another one. Give us another one of your techniques.
You're not boring me. I'm not tired. It's one of the techniques. It's one of the techniques.
Yawn?
Like literally yawn with me. So again, subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. It doesn't know if this is a fake yawn or an involuntary yawn. It just knows it's a yawn. Well, the yawn and dropping your jaw like that stimulates the vagus nerve. That's the longest nerve in the body that goes from the brain down into your belly and encircles all of your internal organs. Oh, by the way, stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. Rest, digest, and relax.
So you can fake a yawn just like you can fake a smile, and it will trick your brain into believing it's real.
Yeah. And the same thing, like smile is another one of the techniques in the book, because when you smile, it's telling your brain, "Ooh, I'm happy," and it stimulates those happy hormones again. Like, these are all so simple. And I think that a lot of people like, it's got to be complicated. I'm telling you, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
So we have a question from Kim. She said, how does this connect with old memories randomly resurfacing years later? And that's interesting because I've had that happen.
So it depends on like what kind of old memories. Are they traumatic? And if so, it could be because there's something happening now that is re-triggering that. The reason that we go, the work that I do is to go back and find where that root cause is because, again, tying back into neurons that wire together, fire together. So whatever experience we have, we experience it, there's the neural pattern. We experience it again, it gets stronger. Like every time we have a similar experience, it strengthens this. Right. So then we're later in life and we're having these memories of, possibly traumatic things coming back, and it's re-triggering that. So if you, if anybody gardens, like you can't just snip the weed off above the soil line. It's going to grow back, right? You have to get in there and get the root. That being said, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It doesn't have to hurt, right? That is like, because I had a traumatic experience with a therapist, and it was not the technique. It was, not everybody who is a therapist is really good. Not everybody who's an integrative hypnotist is really good. She had me re-experiencing trauma, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to re-experience it. So, if there are memories of, past traumas, I would say, you might want to think about talking to somebody, whether it's me or someone else. And I will tell you, please, if you, want to go to a hypnotist, get a referral. There's a lot of people who do a lot of things, and not everybody's really good at what they do.
So my therapist, I've been doing EMDR work.
That might have been, right? And so I don't fault the technique.
So yeah, but it's the same kind of thing where you're either tapping, or like in my case, she has me hold these little vibration things and they buzz back and forth, one to the other, one to the other. And what she has me do is go sit in the memory, not re-experience the trauma, but just remember it and kind of sit in it, because what that does is it releases some of the intensity. So you can go back and you still have the memory, but it's not with the level of intensity that it had before. Is that the same thing you're talking about?
I just do it a lot quicker. I do.
I say hundreds of thousands of dollars. So well,
no, seriously, I do it a lot quicker because I know how to do it. I know how to do it. So it's not painful because, she had me re-experiencing it. And that helped me to be really good at what I do, because I would never, ever have someone re-experience a trauma. I would just never, because you don't need to, right? Like, that was painful enough. Why do I want to bring it into my present moment? I don't. I want to leave it alone. But to what you said, it doesn't create amnesia for it, right? We don't want to create amnesia. We just want to take the sting away.
Yeah, my TED Talk, I quoted, it's funny because I had this book on my desk. I'm always reading something. And right now I'm reading The How of Happiness by Sonia Lyubomirsky. But she, so I quoted her in my second TED Talk because she was saying basically, it was an Ann Bruce who just asked a question, which we can address next, but Ann Bruce was actually there. She was my mentor, or she is a mentor and coach. But one of the things they said is, like, imagine you were walking through a park and it's late at night and you're headed home, and immediately you hear this noise, and before you can even recognize it, someone stabs you. And you wake up after the surgery and the doctor's like, hey, you were attacked. I can give you a magic pill that would make you forget this event, or you can have the memory. And like 80% of the people that they surveyed said, I'm not taking the pill. Like, I'd rather have the memory of the event. Now, I know a lot of people who are like, give me the damn pill. Like, if their event was traumatic enough. I get there's different levels of trauma, but it's interesting how our brain is so I don't even know suggestible, or it's so powerful that we can literally work through memories and work through traumas. It just blows my mind, literally. Like, it really is incredible to think about that. So Anne asked, do you do past life work? Oh my gosh, this is taking us down. Like, do I need a crystal? I need crystal. I need that glowing stone in the back of my.
So again, let me share a story from years ago when I still had my in-person hypnosis practice. By the way, for anybody who's just coming online to doing work online, I've been doing this online for 5 years. So like, this is my comfort zone. So when I had my hypnosis practice, a CEO of a bank was working with me for weight loss. And, she was very linear in her thinking. And out of the blue, I get a message from her asking, do you do past life regression? I want to buy a session for my husband. And I was like, because I never, ever advertised that I did that, right? Because I said, well, let me ask you something. If you had seen on my website that I do past life work, would you have worked with me? She goes, no, but my husband wants to. So he came and he had an incredible session. Like, this was amazing. Now, first of all, if you believe in past life, yeah, we can do the work. If you don't, I don't do that kind of stuff. Like, I meet you where you are. So this man, had a really great experience. And at the end of the session, he goes, wow, and now my back pain's gone. Now, I knew nothing about his back pain, but his powerful mind took him where he needed to go. He believes in past life regression. He went to the past life where he was stabbed, and his back pain's gone. Again, no mention of back pain to me. All right. Okay, so I'm looking at your face and loving it.
I know, I'm like.
So I worked with a 14-year-old girl who had a fear of dogs. And it was so funny because my kid's pediatrician, they didn't know what I did. I was showing up as mom. I wasn't showing up as a hypnotist until one day I came into their office to do an in-service for them. And they were like, wait, what are you doing here? So they used to regularly refer their patients with fears and phobias, needle phobias and stuff. So she's a referral from local. So I spoke to the mom and I said, okay, I work virtually now. But what I'd like to do is do our first couple sessions virtually. And then when I know she's over the fear, I want you to bring her to my house because I want her to meet Maggie, my therapy dog, who's behind here. And so we're working on fear of dogs after she was a cheerleader. After her first session, she was able to do a backflip in front of her coach that she'd never been able to do. Now, we weren't talking about that. We're talking about fear of dogs. After the second session, as a freshman in high school, she made a spot on the varsity team. Wow. Third session, she came to my house. The mom came back crying because her daughter's sitting there with my dog. Wow. And she's calm as a cucumber. She, you would think that was probably because she had some traumatic experience with a dog, right?
Yeah.
Nope. It was performance anxiety from her very first dance recital. So then the mother texts me after this party where the whole thing was around this party where dogs were going to be. She texted me and said I was waiting for her to text me all night. I didn't have to go get her. I went at the end of the party and she's in this great room with not one, not two, but 3 dogs. I can't believe it. Then I get another text from her telling me, oh my gosh, she stopped throwing up on competition days. No one ever told me that. But that is how powerful, when you get that root cause, it ricochets into all these different areas.
All right, so we've got 2 minutes left. For people who want to get started, what is something we can do ourselves? So, I mean, obviously we'll have your contact information and if people want to reach out to you, but what is it we can do on our own to really tap into the power of our mind?
Start to get present. Like, that is absolutely the most important thing, like the techniques that I shared with you today, but also just think right now, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Our breath is always with us. So our breath brings us into the present moment.
And that is such a beautiful segue to talk about my new book.
Yay!
Because it is all about bringing yourself back to present. And I just can't thank you enough for helping us kind of start at least thinking through some of these things. Because I think so many times we hear your mind is so powerful, but it's something else to like physically experience it. And when you did that lemon demonstration, that was all it took to really convince me, because my mouth, I mean, it really did water, and it's nothing more than the power of your mind, which is so incredible.
Yeah. Let me close with something. I don't know if you know this, that my first career was as a celebrity radio DJ, and
Right.
I was the very first automated voice. Move your bananas to the belt. To listen to your messages, press 1.
That was you.
That was me back in the 1980s.
So when you're meeting people, you're like, fun fact, do you recognize this voice?
Well, and so now when you go to the self-checkout at the grocery store and you hear, move your bananas to the belt, I'll be in your head.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Everybody, thank you for taking the time to hang with us and to have happy hour. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let us know what you want to hear, because quite frankly, I started doing these Facebook Lives when COVID happened, just because I was like, well, let's give it a try. Like, I've never done it before, and it's been fun. I've gotten to talk to really cool, creative people. And I haven't decided if I want to keep doing it or not. Like, there's part of me that's like, you know, do I want my Friday afternoons? Is there value in it? So if these are things that you guys enjoy and you're getting value out of them, I 100% want to keep doing it, and we can look at frequency and topics, but really would love your feedback in Facebook, in the comments. Let us know what you've enjoyed so far that we've done with the live events that you've been to, and what topics interest you, and any feedback that you have. So we can decide, you know, if you're enjoying them, I definitely want to keep doing them. But if not, then we'll figure out something else to do.
I'll tell you, I've been enjoying them, not just this one, but, you know, I've enjoyed like B last week and Natalie Kagan, is it Kogan or Kagan?
Kogan. Mm-hmm.
Kogan. A couple of weeks ago. I've really been enjoying them. So please keep telling her, keep doing them.
All right, cool. Well, Stephanie, you're a rock star. Thank you so much. And I might be calling you to like work through some stuff.
Good. I would love that. That would be my honor.
All right.
Thank you so much, Anne.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.